If you're anything like me, you've had that moment, standing in your garden, hoe in hand, glaring at a stubborn patch of green that just won't go away. Maybe you mutter a few choice words under your breath, wondering how many hours you've wasted ripping these intruders out. We've been told over and over that weeds are the enemy, unwanted, useless, even harmful. But what if I told you that some of those so-called pests are actually working harder for your soil than your most expensive fertilizers? I learned this the hard way. One summer I ignored a corner of my garden. I just didn't have time to weed it. By autumn I expected a mess. Instead I found a patch of soft, crumbly soil alive with worms, a far cry from the hard, compacted dirt I'd left behind. The secret? The weeds had been doing the repair work for me all along. And the best part? These aren't rare plants you need to special order. They're likely growing right under your nose, ready to heal your soil if you let them. Today I want to introduce you to 7 forgotten weeds, nature's healers, that quietly repair damaged earth, pull up hidden nutrients, attract pollinators, and bring life back to tired ground. When soil becomes compacted, water runs off instead of soaking in, roots can't spread, and oxygen struggles to reach deeper layers. Many weeds have evolved deep taproots and fibrous root networks that act like nature's tillers. They break apart hardpan layers without disturbing the soil biology like mechanical tilling does. Take dandelion, for instance. Most people see it as a nuisance in their lawn, but that taproot can drill a foot or more into the earth, loosening it as it goes. This improves aeration and water infiltration not just for itself but for any plants growing nearby. Dockweed does the same. Its strong root can penetrate even clay-heavy soils, creating pathways for air, water, and beneficial organisms. By the time you cut these plants down or let them die back, those roots decompose in place, leaving behind organic matter channels that act like permanent mini irrigation tunnels in your garden bed. That's something no chemical fertilizer can replicate. Healthy soil isn't just about structure, it's also about nutrition. The problem is many essential minerals like calcium, magnesium, and potassium get locked away deep in the subsoil, far beyond the reach of shallow-rooted vegetables. Here's where certain weeds step in as nutrient miners. Chickweed, for example, has a shallow but efficient root system that scavenges nutrients from the topsoil and keeps them cycling in living plant matter rather than letting them leach away. Nettle is another powerhouse. It's loaded with nitrogen, iron, and trace minerals. When nettles decompose, those nutrients are released in a form other plants can readily absorb. One of my favorites is comfrey, technically not a weed in the classic sense, but often treated like one because it spreads aggressively. Comfrey's roots can reach down 8 to 10 feet, pulling up potassium and phosphorus from layers most plants will never touch. Chop and drop its leaves around your crops, and you've just created a natural slow-release fertilizer with zero packaging or processing. When we think of weeds, we usually think of competition for water and sunlight. But what we often miss is how they can actually support the entire ecosystem of the garden. Certain weeds are, honestly, magnets for beneficial insects. Not just pollinators, but also predatory insects that help keep pests in check. Queen Anne's lace, for example, is a wild carrot relative that attracts lacewings, hoverflies, and parasitic wasps, the kind of insect army you definitely want patrolling your cabbages. Yarrow is another biodiversity hero, pulling in bees while also offering shelter for predatory beetles. Even clover, which is often cursed by lawn owners, works double duty. Not only does it fix nitrogen into the soil through its relationship with rhizobium bacteria, but it also provides nectar for pollinators long after many cultivated plants have stopped blooming. A diverse garden with a few beneficial weeds can be far more pest resilient than a perfectly manicured weed-free plot. Let's put names to these quiet workers. The 7 I'd have you keep an eye out for are dandelion, dock, chickweed, nettle, comfrey, Queen Anne's lace, and clover. Each has its own specialty, from breaking up clay to mining deep minerals to calling in pollinators and predator insects. When you see them pop up, instead of rushing for the hoe, just pause for a moment. Ask what they might be doing for your soil. Are they loosening hard ground? Are they pulling up nutrients? Are they attracting life? Sometimes leaving them in place, or even encouraging a patch, can save you hours of labor and dollars in amendments. Now, I'm not saying you should let your garden run wild and let weeds choke out your vegetables. What I am saying is that we can be strategic. Identify which of these plants are helping and which are hindering, and manage them accordingly. In my raised beds, I'll let clover creep along the edges as a living mulch, fixing nitrogen while shading the soil. In compacted spots of the yard, I'll let dock and dandelion grow for a season before chopping them down and letting the roots rot in place. If nettles show up, I'll harvest them for compost tea before they seed. This way, I'm turning potential problems into solutions, guided by the plants themselves. Think of it less as weed control, and more as weed partnership. You become the conductor of a living orchestra, guiding which players stay, which leave, and when they make their contribution to the whole performance. As we face tougher growing seasons, unpredictable weather, and soil that's been abused for decades by overtilling and chemical inputs, it's time to lean on every ally we have, even the ones we once thought were enemies. These 7 forgotten weeds have been quietly repairing soil for thousands of years, long before we started bagging fertilizers and selling them at garden centers. If we can learn to work with them, rather than against them, we can create gardens that are healthier, more resilient, and more abundant, without spending a fortune or fighting nature every step of the way. So next time you see a dandelion waving at you from the corner of your garden, remember, that little yellow flower might just be doing more for your soil than you are. And if you found this eye-opening, I'd love for you to hit that subscribe button, share this with a friend who's always battling weeds, and help me spread the word that sometimes the best soil doctors are the ones we didn't plant on purpose.